Welcome to Senior Moments, the podcast where we discuss the good, the bad, and the truly ridiculous parts of aging. Today we have Laurel Joliff with us. She has been working in the senior market for about 15 years now, and we are going to talk about finances today, specifically women and finances. So welcome, Laurel.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that. And anytime I can help a woman feel more confident about stuff that she typically doesn't gravitate to, I'm all for it. I want to empower the women.
And I had an occasion about 20 years ago. I went to a class reunion and I had a friend come up to me. She's married and was so aghast that I've never been married. And how do I do that? Because she didn't even balance her own checkbook. So I was equally aghast, going, oh my gosh, how can you not balance your checkbook? How can you be so divorced from the money side of your marriage? So here we are today.
Yeah, it's very easy to, as you say, divorce oneself from jobs that you don't like to do.
Exactly.
It's very easy, especially when you have a willing partner that prefers to take over or has requested to take over or has offered to take over. And so, yeah, typically women shy away from numbers and finance. When they were little girls, their fingers went in their ears and said, oh, I hate numbers, I'm not good at math, I hate math. Because many women are right-brained, and so they're more focused on the English, grammar, and art, things like that. And I see the need for women to understand this. I mean, they're half of a marriage, or they're, as you are, you're by yourself, and so you need to empower yourself with the knowledge that makes your money go the farthest.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what typically, let's say I'm married and suddenly my spouse dies and I look around and go, I don't even know if my house is paid off. Is that what can happen?
Yeah, that's very real. I'll give you, a scenario. So in that case, then that woman needs to have a friend come over and say, okay, let's go through some files. Let's find some stuff. And sometimes it shouldn't be someone emotionally attached to dad or husband, but someone who can just get down into the files and say, okay, this looks like this is your mortgage. It looks like, let's make a phone call or 2 or 10 and find out what your balance is. Find out how you're paying it, find out the bank accounts, things like that. And so my goal in life is to reach that woman before he passes, so they can have these conversations together, so he can show her where the bank account is, what the numbers are, what the passwords are. And so, because statistics show that he will go first, most likely that will happen. It doesn't always happen, obviously, but it statistically may. And she needs to be prepared, at least financially. She's devastated because emotionally, and that's to be understood. But financially, she needs to know if her house is paid off. She needs to know the passwords to the bank account. She needs to know what's left of their money, and where is it, and is it growing, or is it dwindling? She needs to know that, and she needs to take an active and not a passive role in that.
Okay. And the other situation is Social Security. What happens with Social Security when one partner dies?
That's a great question. And there are probably a dozen different answers depending on her age and his age and Social Security and whether you qualify and all of that. And so there's no one answer to that. But it's absolutely vital that you know those answers for your situation. If someone has reached retirement age versus not, there's a lot of different factors that come into play with regards to Social Security. So there's definitely not one answer.
Okay, and I do know from my pensions every time I worked for a company that actually had a pension, which doesn't happen much anymore, one of the questions would be, do you want this to continue after you die? So I can get a little more if I say no. I can get a little more right now. If I say yes, I get a little less. Then my spouse, should they live after I'm gone, will still get my pension.
Great question, and it is a question that many get to answer. I have a standard answer for that particular question, and that only applies if he outlives you.
That's correct.
And so why would you not take the money in advance, the most money possible, and invest the difference?
I don't know. I never considered doing that.
Exactly. And so that's exactly one of many examples of what I do with people. Now, I will tell you that I take care of a lot of men as well as women in their finances. And so don't think that I am men opposed. I'm not. I'm happily married and I feel very blessed to have him as a partner. And so I definitely take care of a lot of men's finances as well. The women, however, are the ones who shy away from it. And again, when they were little girls, they put their fingers in their ears and said, I don't want to do it, and have grown and lived that way their entire lives. And so that I have seen as a detriment.
That definitely would be a detriment in my book. Are you seeing that as women from, say, a generation or two younger than me? And I'm 66, everybody can know that. So if I were like 40 right now, do you see a difference in attitude from the younger women as opposed to the older women, the women that have grown up thinking they're going to have a career and they're going to go out and work for us? And
that's a great question. Their attitudes are typically the same. Oh, I don't do numbers. I'm never good at math. I don't want to know that. I don't want to do that. My company takes care of my investments. I don't know a thing about them. That's pretty standard, whether they're 20 or 30 or 50 or 70.
well, that is amazing.
Yeah, it's a gender thing, I believe. And again, a little girl is pretty and cute and evidently doesn't need to know math as far as grandparents are concerned, and whereas the boys are a little more encouraged to do that.
Sure. Okay. So what happens if I'm tootling along and suddenly my spouse dies and you come on over and we're going through files and I suddenly find out that I've got a mortgage payment that I can't afford? I'm getting half of the income I used to get because suddenly Social Security is readjusting my
household income.
Yes, exactly. What do you do?
Yeah, well, I again go through lots and lots of files, and we talk to kids, the children of yours, let's say, for example, in your situation, and we make sure that they're on the same page. There's no surprises, and so we don't do anything that the kids don't know about, for example. And we sit down and say, this is the picture. We write it all out and say, this is what I see as total assets. This is what I see as the balance of the mortgage. This is the payment. We have these four options. We can refinance, we can sell, we can move, we can reverse mortgage, we can do, one of you can help, based on your financial situations. I absolutely include the whole family. Oftentimes, mom doesn't want the kids to know this stuff, which is also an issue.
Okay, and in that situation, do you encourage?
I encourage her, but she's the boss.
Exactly.
She's the one that knows.
Exactly.
She might know that kids have lied in the past or stolen or something. There's all kinds of different scenarios, and so she's ultimately the one that will make the decision. But I will encourage, because the last thing I want is for a 50-year-old kid to call me and say, "What do you think you're doing?
Exactly.
You have no business doing this. That's my money." So I don't want that to ever happen. It's never happened before, and I pray it doesn't happen in the future. And so I do try to include them in all aspects. Now, I will insist that they get involved if mom is showing signs of dementia or some aged, condition that maybe she's not fit to make some decisions.
So that brings us all the way to pre-planning and, powers of attorney. I was
That's a
not
big deal.
finding the word there for a minute.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I mean, I take care of several hundred seniors for their Medicare-related insurances. And when I can see a decline in health and mental faculties, I absolutely get the kids involved. And I encourage them, do you have a power of attorney? You need to check into getting that. Because mom is, she can't sign her name anymore.
Right.
Or, she's asking the same question for, 4 or 5 times. And what I'm hearing is she's not able to make these decisions and she needs your help.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you did include reverse mortgages, which is kind of a hot button topic of mine. I can see where they could be useful. However, I have a whole group of people in my neighborhood who all have reverse mortgages, and I'm not sure why. I truly wonder what's going to happen if one of them ends up having to go into assisted living, for example. And if you've already drained all the money out of your house, what are you gonna do? I mean, we're talking $5,000-6,000 a month at the low end right now for assisted
For
living.
assisted living, yeah.
Yeah.
Assisted living is crazy expensive. Yeah, you're looking probably $6,000 to $8,000 or $9,000 a month, realistically. I mean, reverse mortgages are not for everybody, but they're absolutely for the senior, single senior or couple that have no heirs, or the kids don't want an inheritance. They don't need the house. They don't want the house. That's oftentimes the case these days. They'll not be kicked out because they can't pay it because it's a reverse mortgage. They don't technically own the house anymore. If their assets are depleted that far, then they would probably qualify for Medicaid, which then the assisted living is an option. And so it's not for everyone, but it absolutely is for some.
Okay.
It's a good recommendation for some.
Okay. So I do need to comment that in California, I believe there are only 6 counties in this state that will allow for a Medicaid assisted living facility to be run. So here in Calaveras,
Okay.
we have no Medicare assisted living or in Medicaid or Medicaid, either here or in Amador County, because we don't qualify. The state doesn't qualify us for that, which I find really intriguing since we're one of the poorest counties in the state.
Yeah.
Now San Joaquin County, there are.
Well, I have had some clients in the past who have been on Medicaid and have been in Amador and or Calaveras. And so I don't know the details of what you're referring to. Maybe things have changed since they were patients there. But I have seen some of my clients at those facilities that accept Medicaid.
Okay. So that you may be talking about nursing homes, not assisted living.
Correct. Yeah, well, that's true.
Big
that's
difference.
true. That's a big difference. Yes, yeah. And I was.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's just one of those lovely little surprises you find out. For example, I started taking Social Security. I had no idea I was going to get taxed on my Social Security. I found out the bad news.
Well, you're getting taxed on your Social Security because of your income outside of Social Security. So if you're over a certain amount, then yes, you are taxed.
When I read it, I thought it said 80%. I was going to get taxed 80% of my Social Security.
No, it's a couple dollars for every $3 you make.
Okay.
So there's a sliding scale.
Okay.
And so yeah, and now that goes away completely when you're 70.
The income tax, the tax stuff?
Yeah, it doesn't matter how much you make after 70.
Great. Well, that is an absolutely piece of good news that I could use. So thank you very much.
You bet.
Yeah. Talking about, I'm just going to touch on Medicare a little bit. That's the other thing that was a really rude awakening for me, was the fact that now I get forced into Medicare, which is okay, I guess, but I was paying less money per month when I was on the Covered California. I carry 3 cards now instead of 1.
Right.
And then there's the famous donut hole.
Right, right. So first of all, if you didn't have premium assistance with Covered California, a 64-year-old would probably pay about $1,200 a month for their health insurance
Sure, that makes sense.
outside of Covered California, or if your income is such that you don't qualify for any premium assistance, it's a lot. And so when someone says, okay, Medicare Part B is $164.90, they celebrate. It's time to have a party. And then you throw a full coverage or almost full coverage supplement on top of that. Now they're paying $300 a month for, other than Part B as in boy deductible, they get 100% coverage. They're having a party.
Oh,
Because they're not paying
absolutely.
$1,200 a month, they're paying $300. And so that's
Exactly.
huge. And so most people love, 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 love getting to Medicare. If one's income is lower and they have a very high premium assistance through Covered California, that does become a challenge. Sometimes I've had people in the beginning when the Affordable Care Act first started, they said, no, I don't want Medicare. I'll keep my Covered California. Thank you very much. It's free, or it's $10 a month.
Sure.
And the challenge with that is you can't have Covered California if you're eligible for Medicare.
That is correct.
Mhm.
Yes.
You will not be covered. And so that's a big deal, whether you like it or not.
It is a big deal, and
Mhm.
I actually classify Medicare as one of the things that are truly ridiculous about aging, because we have a program that is so complicated, we have to have another program to explain it to us.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I will agree with you 100% there. That's why what I do is I interpret Medicare. My joke is I don't speak Spanish, I speak Medicare, because
Okay.
it's a foreign language.
Absolutely.
And so one shouldn't feel slighted or inadequate because they don't understand it. It's just a different language. And so find an interpreter. And,
Okay.
and that's what I specialize in.
Okay.
I'm a great Medicare language person. I don't speak Spanish.
Okay, but yeah, look,
Agents
Medicare.
that do, but I don't. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So I did read a comment on Nextdoor during the enrollment period this time about someone going to someone, a private person, like yourself,
Mhm.
and their comment was, well, those people aren't going to give you the best help because they only push the programs that they are associated with. So how do you answer that?
It's a very real comment, and I hear it a lot. I'm a broker.
Okay.
I take care of just about all the companies, and so they all pay me.
Okay.
And for some plans, they pay me exactly the same because the state of California tells them how much to pay me. And so who pays me is off the table when you work with a broker. There are some exceptions like Kaiser, which is, of course, is not available here anyway. And so that would be an exception to the rule. But for example, all the drug plans,
Uh-huh.
they're state regulated. They have to pay me the exact same amount, whether you use Aetna or Anthem or AARP, the Part D plan, they all pay me the same. And they pay
Okay.
any agent the same. And so it behooves me to become certified with all the companies that I can in order to best serve you.
Okay.
But my income is irrelevant as far as I'm concerned when
Right.
it comes to what's best for you. When I meet with someone, I go over. I have what I call a Medicare 101 meeting. It takes about an hour, and if they're far away, we do a Zoom, and so
Okay.
we like the face-to-face as much as possible. And I go over all of their options, and then they decide.
Okay.
So it's who pays me best is off the table. It doesn't matter.
Well, there's only 2 people that come up here anyway, so no, I'm teasing. Our choices for coverage somewhat limited in Calaveras and Amador County.
Well, for a supplement, it's you have very a lot of choices.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's probably 30 choices, 30 companies with anywhere between 4 and 7 plans apiece.
Okay.
So there's a lot of choices for supplements. The Medicare Advantage is a different story.
Okay.
The Medicare Advantage, and that's a whole other podcast.
Oh yeah, that's a interesting animal.
You are correct. If that's what you're referring to, there were 2 brand new ones in Calaveras this last open enrollment period.
So what happens if they change their mind and decide to go out of the county? I mean, it seems like almost every year or two, for example, one of the insurance companies has to renegotiate with the hospital, and then suddenly everybody's scared because the negotiations aren't going well and they haven't gotten their thing signed, and then we get emails saying, well, this is, right now they are not under contract with so and so. And
That is correct. You got it. You hit the nail on the head. So every year when a senior chooses a Medicare Advantage plan, that's contracted for the year.
okay,
So the company and the providers are contracted. Now, there might be negotiating the following year, sure. They're always negotiating. But every year it's a new contract. And so every year you have an option. If they remain in our county, then you'll have an option to stay. And if they don't, you'll have an option to move. So your initial question was, what if you move? And so that gives you a special election period. And so let's say that you live in Angels Camp, you have the Anthem Blue Cross PPO, and you move to Lodi. Well, now you've got 60 days where you can get a different plan that San Joaquin County offers that are way different than Calaveras, and you have more choices. You also have more providers to choose,
sure, that makes sense.
because there's more people. But that gives you a special election period. You have deadlines that you have to pay attention to, and if you don't know those deadlines, call me.
Okay.
But yeah, you have a special election period. You're not stuck with something that was in Calaveras County.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to contact you, let's say they hear our podcast today and they want to contact you and say, I think I need to know more about what's going on financially between my husband and I, and, we'd like you to come and kind of talk us through choices that we're making and choices that we're going to need to make. Do you offer a class, or how do you market this?
Sure. Most of my business is referral.
Okay.
And so because I take care of several hundred people, I get a lot of referrals. I'm always interested in helping new folks though. And so by all means, they can call me. Want me to give my phone number?
Sure.
Okay, 209-786-2021. And so if you call me, I promise I will call you back. I'm good at that, whereas many people are not these days.
Okay.
I do return calls, and we'll set up a phone call, and we chat as long as you need to.
Okay.
And we'll figure out what's the next step.
All right.
Sometimes the next step is just, okay, we've talked for 30 minutes. I got my questions answered. Thank you very much. Or sometimes it's, let's get together in a couple of weeks.
Okay. And what if I don't know what my questions are?
Then I get to ask you a bunch of questions.
So-
And I oftentimes do that. I say, okay, let me ask you, so where do you live? How old are you? Are you married? Are you drawing Social Security? So I ask questions that I need in order to help you best.
Oh, all right. That
Yeah.
sounds good. Because
Yeah.
honestly, if I talk to you, I'd go, I have no idea where I'm starting right now.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you also, what happens with long-term health care insurance? That's one of the other things. My experience with aging was I had a 97-year-old grandma. She died at 97. Mentally, fine, right up till she died. Physically, she had a few issues. My other grandma, till about 97, she was fine. Then she lived to be 103. By 100, she didn't know people anymore. But, I'd get these, I don't know, sales solicitations about long-term health, care. So it's something that would cover an assisted living. And I'm like, all you want is more money from me. What do I need that for? Because my experience was so different than what I'm finding out a lot of people's experiences.
Right. Well, first of all, no one's going to insure a 97-year-old. They're just not. Not.
No, I don't expect that to happen. But
yeah, no one's going to be able to say, sure, we'll give her a policy.
sure.
Not going to happen. And so you're right. Those are I'm going to call them scammer phone calls, but they're not to your best advantage. Long-term care is a huge need. It's very expensive, and there's only a couple companies left in the state of California that even offer it. There are, however, other vehicles that will provide similar funding. their insurance policies.
Okay.
And so that's one of the insurance policies that I highly recommend if one qualifies for it, health-wise. It is, their financial vehicles, their long-term care vehicles, their death benefit vehicles, they serve many, many purposes. Um, and so the younger you are, the healthier you are, the less expensive they are.
But then they continue to go up as you age.
No, not
They don't.
necessarily.
You
It
can get
depends
a,
on what kind of policy it is. The policy that I'm referring to, they're called index universal life policies, do not go up with age.
oh, okay.
They're life policies.
And do you recommend, I mean, I don't even know if it's possible. Let's say somebody comes to you, they're 55 years old. Do you recommend that they try to get long-term care insurance at that point? Or are you already too old at like 50, 55 because the cost has gone up so much?
So it depends on your finances, depends on your health. Long-term care policies, you also have to qualify for health-wise.
Okay.
And you may or may not qualify for that. I would rather see someone in a life product and life insurance policy that covers finance.
Okay.
They're called living benefits. If you become chronically disabled or critically ill, you can draw from that death benefit to use it to live.
Oh, that's
If
great.
you want to pay for experimental treatment that your insurance company is not going to pay for, if you want to pay for your kids flying out here every other month to take care of you, you can. And so there's multiple uses for that, and there's no restrictions. And so the younger you are, again, the healthier you are, the less expensive it'll be, and the more time it has to grow because they grow
Okay.
with interest. And they're a very wise move. I just did a quote for someone totally out of the arena of what we're talking about, but baby was born in November for almost $100,000 policy is $50 a month. That, if that baby decides to, once they're become an adult, to continue paying $50 a month until they're 50 years old, they'll have chronic illness coverage. They'll have critical illness coverage. They'll have terminal illness coverage. They'll have an income for the rest of their life from 65 on if they want to keep it. It's for $50 a month.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So again, and we talk about 0 all the way up to 50 or 55. And so it goes up based on age and health.
Okay.
And everything in between.
So I guess I have a conversation with my niece and nephew-in-law in the near future. We'll be talking about this because I did not realize that was an option. It sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some families have legacy planning where, they buy a life policy for the oldest person that's not 70
right.
yet. And so then they invest that money, when they pass. And so it's a legacy building tool.
Oh, that's
there's a lot of different ways to do it. And so
sure.
A lot of different answers.
All right. Well, I think we've gotten a lot of information here today, a lot for people to think about. This is Laurel Joliff, and let's get your phone number one more time.
You bet. 209-786-2021.
All right. So
love to hear from you.
Yeah. So thank everybody for joining us on our podcast today, and we'll be looking forward to coming back and talking about some more things that seniors are faced with, and hopefully everybody's not as shocked as I've been over the last few years going, didn't know that.
Yeah. But nonetheless, it's time to celebrate.
Absolutely.
As I should.
Thank you.